made it through hunger, you made it through pain, you made it through drought and you made it through rain. You rose over conflict, you've conquered your shame. You've done it before and you'll do it again.
You made it through hunger, you made it through pain,
yeah.
You made it through drought and you made it through rain. You rose over conflict, you conquered your shame.
Yeah.
You've done it before and you'll do it again.
There is nothing that can ever take your place, 'cause you made it. You are one of us, this global human race. You made it here.
There is nothing that can ever take your place,
'cause you made it here. You are one of us, this global human race. You made it here.
You made it through darkness, you made up your mind.
Yeah.
You dealt with the hardest of times.
Oh.
You're finding your joy now and learning to shine.
Oh.
Enjoying your voice and reclaiming your time.
Again, you
Made it through darkness,
yeah.
made up your mind.
Yeah, yeah.
You dealt with the hardest of times.
You're
Finding your joy
now.
learning to shine.
Enjoy.
Enjoying your voice and reclaiming your time.
There is nothing that can ever take your place.
You made it here.
You are one of us, this global human race.
You made it
Yeah.
here.
There is nothing that can ever take your place.
You made it here.
You are one of us, this global human race.
You made it
Yeah.
If you know that you made it, come on, stand up and say it. If you know that you made it,
Don't let them hold you back any longer.
if you know that you made it,
Give up.
come on, stand up and say it. That you made it,
Don't let them hold you back any longer.
if you know that you made it,
Come on, say it.
come on, stand up and say it. You know that you made it,
Don't let them hold you back any longer. 'Cause there is nothing that can ever take your place.
'cause you made it.
You are one of us, this global human race. Oh, there's nothing that could ever take your place. Is anybody glad that you made it?
All right. Hey, welcome everybody. This is Sunday Sessions. It is your weekly touch point for connection, community, and conversation. I want to welcome everybody who's joining us live on YouTube. You might be joining us from the global campus. You might even be watching at a local watch party. Welcome. And of course, you might be visiting us from the future, watching the replay. But in any case, however you found us, we're glad you're here. And of course, hoping that you're willing and able and ready to share our mission, which is to help people connect better, build better, and live better. And joining me today, I should have introduced myself. My name is Bob Swanson. I'm going to introduce my co-host, Mark, checking in from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Good morning, Mark.
Yeah, good morning. It's a beautiful morning here in Fort Lauderdale. And so I just wanted to touch a little bit on our values, but also kind of wanted to connect these values to our conversation today. And the conversation is headcanon. the definition I have is that headcanon is the unofficial story that fans build in their minds to fill in gaps, explain contradictions, or make a fictional world feel more satisfying. And I just was noting that the same kind of story, shows up in a lot of parts of our lives, and particularly in religious and ideological parts.
Right.
They take these fragments of traditions and emotional needs and present them as if they're the official story of reality, And
there's actually, I think that's kind of very pertinent to here, at least in the States, is the Independence Day weekend.
Yeah,
and how much filling in has been done of our own national history. What stories have we been listening to? Which ones resonate as far as what the country has been and what the country currently is and where the country is going. And so these are all.
So another take on this that I have is that headcanon represents humanity's audacious attempt to write its own interests into a shared story. And just to say that, none of us are actually living the official story, but we need to build a life where meaning is chosen, grounded, and owned for ourselves. So bringing that back to values, we are a forward-thinking community, and no matter what path you find yourself on, your next phase should not be just disbelief, but that authorship. And we can't wait around for someone to write a better story for us to live in. We must recognize that life is a collaborative project, and we're actively shaping these stories to have true meaning within reality.
Nice.
We're people-centric. We're not just characters inside someone else's stories. And we all have our own fundamental right to embody our experience. Last one that we have is life-affirming. Life-affirming narratives do not require denial, fear, superstition, or authoritarian control to survive.
Yes. I'm glad you kind of mentioned superstition. I like to think that around here in Bridge City, we're declaring our independence from superstition and dogma. Because ultimately, the reason one of the main factors in Bridge City's why is that ultimately people matter. And we're not attempting to kind of pretend certainty. This is really a place for honest thinking and shared responsibility, intentional connection, and mature reflection. And a lot of perspectives are welcome here. You don't have to agree with everything to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, everybody brings their own story to the table, quite frankly,
right.
And we value what everybody brings. So with that, I'd like to welcome anybody who's here for the first time. In particular, we always want to make you feel welcome and know that your presence matters.
Yes, and if we do have a free gift, so we got a QR code on the screen there. Free gift for guests. This is not a sales pitch. It's really just kind of an effort toward hospitality. If you happen to stumble upon the stream, you have a chance to learn more about our community by checking out your free gift. Claim it whenever you're ready.
And also, I'd like to extend a welcome to our returning members. Always. We appreciate you being here, that our community is built intentionally by people like yourself showing up and being a part of the community.
And as Mark already sort of introduced, the theme for this July series is headcanon, which thankfully you did a great job of defining that for us, Mark, because when I first saw this as our topic for the month, I was not that familiar. So you did a good job of framing it.
Actually.
You did your research better than I did.
Yeah, so let's take a look at what if people would like to chime in the chat. We'd like to hear what headcanon means to you. If you have some thoughts that you'd like to drop in, I'd love to see what you might have to say.
Yeah, and one thing I'll mention, because as I've learned more about headcanon, of course I can't help but think about my own personal experience and how, of course, I was raised in a pretty strict, devout household, and those certain stories that are you're kind of told, and you're told by authorities, and you kind of accept it as truth, and that becomes part of your narrative, and it can be quite difficult to untangle all that.
Yeah, and well, it's one of the things, when I was looking at some of this stuff, I was thinking about some of the stories in particular, like the stories we tell ourselves about hell, for example. That's always a good one.
Yes.
And most of the images that we have of this narrative don't even come from the Bible, quite frankly. They come from things like the Divine Comedy from Dante, the Apocalypse of Peter, these other stories. That's something I'm sure that we'll be talking about that some more later today.
Well, great. Well, let's transition into the news there real quick, Mark.
Sure. Well, welcome again. My name is Mark Russell. I just wanted to again just put out a little welcome to everybody.
Yeah, and just welcome everybody, and we're just so thrilled you're here. The community is stronger. I think we're stronger together. E pluribus unum. So we're glad you're here.
We'd like to invite you to visit the global campus. It's bridgecity.app/global campus. You can get to it via that QR code if you'd like, or if you're good at typing, you just type it in, I suppose. But it's a great place to just check things out, check out the lobby, and get started. Introduce yourself, check things out. We're always expanding the campus, and there are several places where you can get introduced. In our Welcome Center in particular, you can find some introductory materials and learn more about Ridge City.
Yeah, and there's a guiding hand. We have things called connection circles, so you get a chance to. You're not kind of on your own. You'll actually have a chance for a guided tour to get to know the community. And we also have things called small talks, where we have members that present on certain topics, and that is a great way to sort of learn get the temperature of the room, I suppose, and also get some personal development going on.
I need to schedule one of those for myself.
I'd scheduled one. I'm actually later this month. I'll be doing a thing like critical thinking, so looking forward to that.
Excellent.
If you've never, or if you've been a member and are perhaps interested in sharing Bridge City with other folks, consider hosting a watch party. Watch parties, they're pretty low key. It's really just a chance to have a small in-person gathering where several folks are watching a Sunday session together. And the nice part is that you'll immediately have a chance to have a conversation after the conversation, maybe even during the conversation. You might even heckle while it's going on, but or toss some ideas around. But that's a cool thing to do.
It's a good way to just start getting involved. Of course, just showing up here, of course, is useful as well.
We're going to move into another way of getting involved, which is clubs. We have some really cool clubs, including I must have gone. There we go. We were featuring 3 this week. We have an art club, we have a music club, and we have a production club. I can't draw a lick, so I'm not really that involved in the art club, but I do enjoy music, and I like to write music, and so I'm involved with the music club. Our member Jude is she's the go-to, and she's the person who organizes songwriting sessions and that kind of stuff. And I'm also tangentially involved with the production club, where we kind of work behind the scenes to make this whole stream happen. Z is the heavy lifter on the production club. Right.
Yeah. I mean, and these are so we have a couple of different formats of these clubs. Some of them are like interest clubs, like art, music, books, things like that. And then there's other clubs like the Production Club, which is more about participation, like doing, like actually getting things done. Um, and so they're slightly different styles, but something for everyone, I think, in this.
And speaking of getting stuff done, that's what we want to feature now, a brand new music video that was a kind of a collaboration between the art club and the music club and the production club. Are you ready for it, Mark?
Yeah, bring it on.
All right.
In a world full of irrational thinking and echo chambers, only the bridge builders can save the day, bringing us back to a shared reality based on truth and connection. Meet Fast Forward, bringing the future now. Meet Whimsy, fluttering to make new connections. And meet Affirmaman. Wait, is this really this guy's name? Really? Well, all right. Meet Affirmaman, doing whatever it is Affirmaman does. Together, they are the Bridge Builders.
Building shared reality is better than a fantasy. So you and you and you and me can rise above the phony and be free. When you lose your story, look to the bridge builders, where Dogmatron hides. Bridge builders fight. Your story is yours to write. Building shared reality is better than a fantasy. So you and you and you and me can rise above the phony and be free. Living the life you choose. Don't be afraid to lose when misinformation and algorithm attack. Bridge builders got your back. Together we can do it. Building shared reality is better than a fantasy. So you and you and you and me can rise above the phony and be free. Your power's always been within. You have the strength to fight and win. There was never a such thing as sin. Why wait for your life to Building shared reality is better than a fantasy. So you and you and you and me can rise above the phony and be free.
Right. Yeah. So a big tip of the hat to go down to Z for the production on, but also Jude and for kind of coordinating the songwriting. There's
our sound effects.
and I love the fact that the Firmaman didn't get any color. That was a nice added touch or lack of added touch, which. So anybody who obviously a lot of members contributed to that. If you're a new member, you don't necessarily need to jump in and start contributing in the moment, but just see that that is a possibility. I mean, we're looking for more and more folks to get involved. But at the start, just kind of get kick the tires and get a feel for the Bridge City community. And we certainly understand that joining a new community can be a little bit overwhelming for some folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'd suggest is, like, when you do come in, if you go to the lobby, and then you'll find something called a welcome center. If you go to the welcome center, there's a new member area, and that's a good way to go and explore and to get more acquainted with Bridge City. It gives you the steps for starting, to say hello, to learn the campus, and onboarding. And if interest, also, of course, join a team.
Yes, our teams need more volunteers. So volunteering is important, and you just kind of ask yourself, what's one area of community building that you naturally care about, and then assess kind of your own strengths. Are you more of a behind the scenes person, or are you a people person? Are you a creative, an organizer? Perhaps just your support person. Whatever where your strength is, there's certainly a role for you here at Bridge City.
So we have different areas. We have a member experience team, which helps to welcome and bring people in. Our multimedia team, which is obviously what is creating this event today. The missions and events team, which we are working to create meaning outside of just our little Bridge City area here, to out into the entire world at some, as we can in our abilities. We have a social arts team, which I think that it's sort of like the social arts. Is that the collaboration of the arts and the music and all that? Is that what?
Sounds good to me.
Operations team, and actually your baby, as it were, the children and families team. So
yes. Which that's one of my things. So we will be having hopefully some upcoming events with the children and families team. So, well, want to remind folks, the second Tuesday of every month is Giving Tuesday. So obviously, any community needs material resources, and if we're going to continue to grow this community, we need financial support. So second Tuesdays of every month are an opportunity for you to contribute. We don't have tithes around here. There's no membership dues, that sort of thing. But certainly there's always a room for generosity, especially if it's a cause in a community that you find it has value.
Yeah, and of course, it should be only what you choose to give, and what makes sense. You can't be overextending yourself or anything like that. So, but we do ask that if you're able to help us out, we could use that. Always use that financial support. Let's just do a quick recap. Just like you to check things out, visit the global campus, explore a watch party, check out the clubs, welcome new members in, join one of the teams to get more involved, and if you can, if through your generosity, support through Giving Tuesday.
Awesome. And all right, so we're kind of wrap things up here. We want to, of course, invite everyone to share the stream if possible. Share it on your social media, like and subscribe to the stream, and all that's left is for us to get the conversation rolling. So we're going to turn things back over to Darante.
Welcome in, everybody, to another beautiful Saturday afternoon for a Sunday session. I'm so glad to see so many of you here with us today. Man, I am excited about week 2 of Headcanon. Are you? Last week, we jumped into this thing talking about this is my story, and today we're cranking it all the way up. Listen, are you a first-time guest? Is this your first time visiting Bridge City for a Sunday session? If it is, man, we got a gift that we'd love to put in your inbox. I don't know how you say it. We can't put it in your hands. It's digital, but we love to give this gift to you. And you can go to bridgecity.app/guest. If you have any problems with that link, just make sure to append the www. at the beginning. So that's bridgecity.app/guest. podcast/guest, and we're going to get a gift to you, just as our way of saying thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your time with us. You could be anywhere right now. You probably are anywhere right now, but here you are still giving us a little bit of your time. So we appreciate that. We honor that, and we thank you. All right, y'all ready? Y'all ready to jump into this? First of all, hey, where are you watching from? As you're coming in, let us know where you're watching from. That's how we find out where people are. You may be watching with your neighbor. You may say, hey, I'm in Chicago. And somebody else says, hey, me too. And then look at there, you have found a friend. And that's one of the beautiful things about community, is that it's not just finding a place to be you and be your authentic self and belong without believing or belong without conformity. It's also about finding a place where you can truly connect with other folks. And that's really our mission, to help people connect better, build better, so that they can live better. And so one of the most amazing things that happens in this community, one of the most amazing things that I'm super excited about, that I'm always amped about, is the amount of people who come in here and find new friendships, new relationships that help push them forward and help them be better. What we got some, okay, I got to put this on the screen because somebody is in my neck of the woods. I'm here in Alabama, found you through the faith community. I love it here. That is so awesome. And major shout out to the faith community there in Georgia, led by Christian Smith, who we had on this week for a wonderful conversation. I got to tell you, it will not be the last. Willie, so glad to have you here. Man, this is amazing. We got Riverside County, California in the building. Dark Side said, ain't nobody else in Arkansas. We're going to get some more people there, man. We're going to get some more people there. Oh, man. And listen, if you want to hang out with us live after the chat, like right now you're watching, you can interact with chat. But if you want to hang out with me, the team, and other members right after today's session, join us for coffee hour. We just started this last week. It is a new thing, but it's a way for us to come together after the stream and just hang out a little bit, talk about today's conversation, get to know each other, learn a little bit more about Bridge City. And if you're really about that life, maybe take that next step to get actively involved, right? All right. I think I've done everything that I needed to do to get started. We have a lot of events happening on Bridge City this month. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check out our events page on our global campus. Let's jump into this week. All right. Welcome back, everyone, to round 2 of Headcanon. We kicked this series off last weekend, claiming independence from inherited stories while reclaiming our stories within. And I really like something that Bob said in the intro, reclaiming our independence from superstition. That just hit me. If I was still in a Pentecostal church, I'd say that hit me in the city of my sanctified soul. That just made me feel good, you know? So the ultimate goal of last week, excuse me, was to encourage us all to pick up the pen of our own stories and join the collaborative writing room of our shared humanity. I said last week, and this is just the way I look at it, you ain't got to take my word for it, but if you were born into this life, you were born into a writer's room. Sure, other people were writing. Sure, other people had stories, but when you were born, you joined a story already in progress. Sure, others had already determined a plot, a point of view, and a perspective. But if you're here, you have a hand in how this story continues to unfold. This is your story just as much as it is anybody else's story. But in order to get to the truest version of the stories we tell, live, and embody, we've got to confront the great chasm of misinformation often created by the proliferation of, you guessed it, headcanon. In fandom, headcanon is not the official story. I need you to sit in that. Headcanon is not the official story. It's the story that the fans build in their minds to fill gaps, explain contradictions, or make the world feel more satisfying. When I was a kid, I got really into this show called Charmed. Does anybody remember Charmed? Do y'all remember Charmed? Phoebe, Prue, and some other ones. Okay, Piper, and then Paige. There we go. I got them all. So you got all of them. But one of my favorite characters in that show was a demon. He was half demon. He was half human. His name was Cole. I'm going somewhere with this. He was half demon. He was half human. But Cole became my favorite character in the entire show. They had this weird arc with the avatars, and then they eventually wrote my boy off. And so we never saw him again. I think the actor that played him just recently died. And hit me in a hard place because he was such a talented actor. But one of the headcanon that I developed was he was still on the show. Him and Phoebe was still together. They done had kids, and their kids are super powerful. That's headcanon. Headcanon are the stories that we build in our minds to fill gaps, explain contradictions, or make the world we're engaging feel more satisfying. And we don't just do that with fiction. No, we don't. We don't just do that with fiction. It's often the stories we tell ourselves when the menu provided doesn't completely fulfill our appetites. This is why I introduced the concept last week of narrative awareness, which is the ability to recognize, deconstruct, and evaluate the stories we hear, tell, and live by. It allows you to see how media, culture, and personal experiences shape your worldview, helping you filter out manipulative frames and understand the constructed nature of reality. Reality is constructed. Understanding narrative awareness spans a few key areas of human experience. And I just kind of want to lay this down before we get into the meat of it. And I want to share these with you. So the first one is personal identity. Narrative awareness forms the foundation of our narrative identity. Okay. It forms the foundation, of our narrative identity, the continuously evolving story we tell ourselves about who we are and our place in the world. Can I ask you real quick, what is your narrative identity? Who are you? And what is your place in the world? And please don't lean on me expecting me to tell you. No, this is you. This is you sitting in your agency, sitting in your autonomy, sitting in your authenticity. Who are you? And what is your place in this world? Being aware of this allows you to consciously reauthor negative or limiting personal stories. But then there's also media and culture. We are constantly absorbing messages from mass media and social algorithms. Narrative awareness enables you to step back, identify the underlying agenda of a story. What is this story trying to get me to feel? What is this story trying to get me to perceive? How is it trying to impact the way that I view the world that I live in? And then learn how to question why it is being framed in a certain way. Okay, so, and then there's also communication and persuasion, which is deeply connected to the narrative paradigm, a communication theory suggesting that humans primarily make sense of the world. And trust me, I'm going somewhere, through storytelling rather than purely logical arguments. Have you ever tried to have a conversation with somebody rooted in logic, and no matter how hard you tried, they just couldn't get there with you? That's because many times people are making sense of their world through stories, not through logic. Okay, which now brings us to psychological well-being. In counseling, narrative therapy, check that out. Narrative therapy, my country accent came out a little bit, therapy. Narrative therapy utilizes narrative awareness to help individuals separate themselves from their own problems, positioning them as the ultimate authors of their own lives rather than helpless subjects of their struggles. So the big question of narrative awareness is, to what extent do I recognize the constructed nature of the stories that are shaping reality? How does the conscious awareness of our own life story shape our identity, our decision-making, and most importantly right here, our psychological well-being? Are we aware of the collective repeated narratives, like the stories told in the media, that influence what we perceive as normal? As normal or true? So let's jump into week number 2. I shared this quote with you last week, and it bears repeating. Until the lions have their own history and historians. This bears repeating. This comes from West Africa. It's a quote that I've been hearing for a very long time. Until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. I want you to sit in that for just a moment. Just sit in it. Until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Now, this is an oral African proverb that was popularized globally by the acclaimed Nigerian novelist Chinua Achebe in a 1994 Paris Review interview. It acts as both a metaphor of history and power, for narrative and control. Now, the hunter in this quote represents those in power who gets to shape record, and control the narrative to their advantage. The lion represents those who are silenced, misrepresented, or left out of the official historical record, the canon. And the lesson is the dominant story will always favor the powerful. True justice and balance require the unheard to share their own experiences. Now, I like this proverb a lot because it reminds us that the stories we inherit and inhabit don't just shape how we view ourselves. Okay? Yes, exactly. History is written by the victor. Same basic idea. The stories we inherit don't just shape how we view ourselves. Stories have a way of predetermining what is considered heroic and what is considered villainous. They often tell us who should be trusted and who should be feared, what should be praised and what should be shamed. If we're not careful, stories work to reinforce powerful but false binaries that only exist in the narratives we tell ourselves and are not often truly representative of the world that we live in. Again, until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. So anytime we hear a story, we should sit in the question of whose perspective is not being heard, which we kind of talked about that a little bit last week in talking about how we construct our own stories, wondering, challenging ourselves, interrogating even how we craft our stories and whether we actually leave room for other perspectives in those stories. Who are you silencing with your narrative? Who are you leaving out with the stories that you tell about the world that you share with so many? So in recognition of our often limited perspectives and our often pre-characterized narratives, I have a very simple but sobering question for you this weekend, and I'm making it the title for this weekend. And the question is, who's bad? Who's bad? Come on now. No. Who's bad? Like, listen, if we had the band all ready for Bridge City, we're not there yet, but we on the way. If we had the band ready for Bridge City, we'd be doing our own rendition of Michael Jackson's. Thank you. Come on now. Y'all get a hold of who's bad? You know, I love my team. We have one of the best teams in the world. Thank you, Z. That was the voice of God, if y'all didn't know what that was. Who's bad? Listen, if you love what we do here and if you love this community and you believe that teamwork makes the dream work and participation makes production, would you do me a favor and type in the chat, who's bad? No, who's bad? Today, we are exploring how villains emerge and evolve in our narrative identity. Who's bad? Who's bad? Hey, don't you leave this stream to go listen to Michael Jackson. You wait till after this stream to go listen to Michael Jackson. Now you wait. All right. So this weekend, we're exploring how villains evolve in our narrative identity. There we go. Who's bad? Thank you, Darnea. That's my wife, y'all. Thank you, Captain. Who's bad? Listen, we're talking about how did this evolve in our story? Not just how did they get in the story, okay? But how did this evolve? According to modern psychology, villains often emerge in our personal and collective narrative identities through the internalization of trauma, the polarization of opposing values, and the instinct to project blame onto external forces. We construct these figures to organize complex experiences and assign meaning, fundamentally shaping our self-perception. In narrative identity theory, the villain often plays a specific evolving role in how we make sense of our lives. I want to say that one more time, okay? In narrative identity theory, hey, that's a great word to write down. If you're a note taker, I don't know if you're typing your notes. I don't know if you're tattooing your notes on your arm, but this is a great place to write something down. Narrative identity theory. In narrative identity theory, the villain often plays a specific evolving role in how we make sense of our lives. We're going to start with the shadow. Some of you have heard of the shadow. Villains often represent our suppressed emotions, our fears, or our disowned aspects of the self. When we construct a life narrative, we often externalize our own flaws or failures by attributing them to an external antagonist. Okay. There's also the reaction to trauma. Both heroes and villains often experience similar hardships. Batman and the Joker both had some stuff they had to deal with. Clark Kent and Lex Luthor had some family dynamics that shaped who they are. However, while a hero's narrative moves toward protection, a villain's identity solidifies through projection. And I've got to say that one more time. While a hero's narrative moves towards protection, what am I protecting? What am I preserving? What am I producing? How am I helping humanity progress? A villain's identity solidifies through projection. Who can I put this on? Who can I put this on? I remember a very interesting moment in my life where I could have fully embraced a narrative arc, because I had been going through something with a mentor, a pastor, where they were quite honestly treating me in ways that were just downright unfair. And I was just so holy and so spiritually humble that I was trying to take it all. But I realized through that process, something was happening. The less I was committed to protect me, the more I was willing to project on others. I'm going to say that one more time. Okay. This is why I'm so good at protecting myself now, because the less I was willing to protect myself, the more I was likely to project on others. The hero is about protection. The villain is about projection. And I remember sitting there talking to my wife in that little rundown apartment saying, listen, baby, check this out. It is their fault. Everything they're doing right now, it's 100% their fault. They said they were going to pay me one thing. They did not pay me that. They said they were going to get the car. They did not get the car. I worked here for like 2 months without getting a paycheck. It is absolutely their fault. But then I sat in it because I switched from projection to protection. And I said, but you know what? God damn it. It's my responsibility. Can anybody sit in that type of maturity this weekend? No. It's the villain says it's their fault. The hero says it's my responsibility. Okay. So a villain's identity solidifies through projection, often characterized by vengeance or a desire. Watch this, or a desire to force control over an unpredictable world. The entire 28 years of my life that I spent in religious superstition, I found myself trying to force control over an unpredictable world. Come on, let's go deep for a moment. Have you ever been in a situation and you just said to yourself, hey, this should not be happening? This shouldn't be happening. Oftentimes that is that desire to force control over an unpredictable world. I can't stay here too long because we got so much that we got to get into. The next one is the unreliable narrator. I'm just setting it up. We're going to talk back and forth today. I got some chat questions. I got a poll question. We're going to talk. But people rely on inner narratives that protect their sense of self. When a narrative identity focuses heavily on being a victim, it inherently requires a villain. The brain looks for evidence to confirm existing beliefs, categorizing opposing individuals as one-dimensional adversaries to justify the self's choices. Okay. On a broader scale, villainizing others serves a highly functional purpose in organizing communities and history. See, I wouldn't be being fair if I didn't talk about this with the full nuance that it deserves. Okay. So let's talk about the first aspect, focusing blame. Sociological concepts of narrative transformation show that we construct villains to transform ambient anxiety, frustration, or societal injustice into clear indignation and purpose, which means sometimes, and listen, I promise you I'm going to make this make sense, but sometimes we have villains emerge in our narrative identity, so we have somewhere to focus blame. And it's not just focusing blame in a reactive sense, but it's in this sense to be able to transform this anxiety. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to perform. It's a way to transform this frustration with societal injustice or imbalance or inequity and create some indignation and purpose. I find for many people, you don't find your lane until you find your pain. Can I say that one more again? That's just preacher talk, but I hope it helps somebody. Many times in life, you do not find your lane until you find your pain, until you find a thing. What breaks my heart and why? Sometimes your purpose comes right on out of that. All right. But then there's another aspect of this about defining the self. Collective identities like national, politics, or religious groups are heavily defined by what they oppose. The villain's destructive actions force the community to mobilize, defining the hero by their bravery, sacrifice, or commitment to the common good. And then this other one, the mirror. The mirror. Engaging with villains safely in stories or media provides a lens to explore transgressive parts of human nature that we never act upon in real life. So ultimately, villains are not simply born, they are constructed as a psychological mechanism to help us navigate a chaotic world, reconcile our deepest wounds, and solidify our ethical boundaries. And this is really where I want to start this weekend's conversation. This is really where I want to challenge us, and we're going to sit in some uncomfortable stuff here. But if you came to Bridge City, you came to do three things. You came to connect, you came to build, and you came to live. And we can wrap that up in one word. You came to Bridge City to grow so you can go. Are y'all ready for this? So let's talk about the villains we need. Okay, yeah. If you're a note taker, go ahead and write that down. The villains we need. This is my first stopping point. This is our first stopping point of this weekend's conversation. The villains we need. Have you ever thought about that there might be some villains you need? We're shaped to create villains in life through psychological survival mechanisms. When navigating trauma, stress, or conflicting beliefs, casting others as antagonists helps us make sense of suffering, justify our own choices, and maintain a narrative. Okay? It helps us make sense of suffering, justify our own choices. Have you ever had a villain just so it can justify your choice? Listen, I ain't trying to make you feel bad. That's not what this is. This is not a positive, negative moment. This is just sitting in reality and the nuance of it and the discomfort of it and the complexity of it, and just being willing to be honest with myself that yes, sometimes some of my villains, some of my antagonists, they exist to help me stay focused on this choice that I've made. According to Will Storr, in the science of storytelling, villains or the people and forces that create hardship, villains are the people or the people and forces that create hardship for us, exist because life requires friction for growth. Okay. Life requires friction for growth. I don't like it. No, I don't like it. I don't like it, but it's the reality. Life requires friction for growth. Adversaries break us out of complacency. They test our boundaries and force us to develop resilience, empathy, and wisdom. Some of you have had to dig deeper into your empathy than ever before, primarily because the villains that have rose up over the past few years in Western politics. Am I preaching good? Am I talking all right? No, like for some of the villains, the villains exist because life requires friction for growth. And I might have been sitting there in complacency. I might have been sitting there thinking that I don't have to do anything. I might have been sitting there thinking that I'm not the one to contribute to this issue. I'm not the one to help out with this. I'm not the one to speak up, to cry loud and spare not, as they used to say. But then all of a sudden an adversary shows up and it breaks us out of the complacency. I just can't sit here and let this continue to happen. It begins to test our boundaries. How far am I willing to let this go? And then it forces us to develop resilience. No, if I'm going to get in it, I'm going to have to stay in it. It encourages us to develop empathy. No, if I'm going to be in it, I'm going to have to understand what I'm in. And it encourages us to walk in wisdom, that I'm going to have to be, watch this, as wise as serpents. I got to steal it. and as harmless as doves. Without the contrast of darkness, the positive aspects of our lives, such as peace and connection, in many cases would lose their meaning. From a psychological and philosophical standpoint, these figures serve several distinct purposes in our development. Number one, they are catalysts for growth. The villains we need, that's what we're talking about. I'm talking about the villains you need. They are catalysts for growth. Just like in storytelling, real life obstacles force the protagonist, that's you, the protagonist, to evolve, to learn new skills and overcome internal flaws. Okay, that's the catalyst for growth. I'm so mad at what I'm seeing, but the present version of me is not capable of doing anything about it. So I'm going to start working on my capacity so that the thing that I'm mad about, I can actually do something about. I am preaching better than y'all are responding. Just like in story, these real life obstacles, they force us to evolve, to learn new skills. Are you just going to sit there, or are you going to evolve? Are you just going to quit, or are you going to learn some new skills? Are you going to be willing to overcome your internal flaws? But Darante, I'm not perfect. I have great news for you, beloved. It doesn't exist, so none of us are. We're not perfect. We're just present. The next one is moral clarity. Moral clarity. What's up, Kyle? Moral clarity. Opposing viewpoints and toxic behaviors help us define our own values and what we stand for by showing us what we don't want to become. What we don't want to become. That's the moral clarity. For years, I spent in ministry, and it was a struggle for me because y'all know I got a very different type of personality. It was a struggle for me because the idea was you got to want what we have, right? That was the idea from elder statesmen to younger statesmen, from the bishops to the young ministers, from the ordained to those who've just been recently commissioned. You got to want what we have. You got to want to do it the way that we want to do it. But after 2 decades in it, I was like, I don't want that. I don't want to do what you're doing. I don't want to become who you are. Sometimes opposing viewpoints and toxic behaviors help us define our own values. This is one of the reasons that I am so grateful for my experiences with my mentors, good, bad, and ugly, because what I learned from all of it is who I want to be and who I don't want to be. Man, hey, mentor, I love you, buddy, but there's certain aspects of you that I would never want to be a part of my personality, and I'm so grateful that I got to see it on you before I put it on me. Anybody ready to walk in that type of maturity? Sometimes this is why I don't even get mad at people sometimes, because I'm just like, ooh, I'm so glad you put that on so I didn't have to. I'm so glad you wore that. So now I know what it looks like. So now I don't have to put on that same garment. Oh my goodness. That's the moral clarity. But then there's also the shadow self. People who frustrate us often mirror our own unacknowledged flaws, forcing a level of self-awareness and introspection we might otherwise avoid. Have you ever been mad at somebody because they not doing what you not doing? No. I'm gonna say it again. See, listen, if you come in here, you might as well get ready to have this stuff repeated, because I need this to make sense. Have you ever been in a place where you've been mad at somebody for not doing something that you're not doing? So at that moment, you're not really mad at them, you mad at yourself. Let me bring this home and look, listen, this trigger warning, okay? I've watched this happen in many communities over and over again, where somebody gets pregnant out of wedlock and the family is mad at the person who gets pregnant out of wedlock. You got pregnant too soon. You got pregnant and you weren't married. You got pregnant and life wasn't all together, and you mad at them. But in the reality, you really not mad at them. You mad at yourself, because now they are mirroring back to you what you did, how you live, what your life looked like. And now you are upset. See, that's that shadow self. See, every time you mad, you think your emotions are telling you about the external world, when in reality, your emotions are telling you about you. And so you mad. And instead of interrogating what this emotion tells me about me, you turn your emotions into prophecy. You turn your emotions into this type of clairvoyance. Because I'm mad at them, they must be bad people. Y'all, okay. Okay. At the same time, it's helpful to remember that most villains in real life aren't inherently evil. They're deeply flawed. Hey, check this out, beloved. Remember when I told you the good news a little bit earlier, which I hope it took a lot off your back. I hope it made you feel better. I hope it made you feel a little bit more human, that you can walk around and just live your life and breathe, realizing that you're going to make mistakes sometimes because you're not perfect and perfection doesn't exist. So I need you to realize, if you know that you're not perfect and that perfection does not exist, guess what? Everybody who's ever broke your heart, everybody who's ever hurt your feelings, everybody who ever did something that created damage in your life, here's the reality, beloved. They just as not perfect as you. Huh? What? Newsflash. They're just as not perfect as you are. And so many times we take harm and turn it into evil. We take hurt and turn it into intent. But many times the villains in your life are not inherently evil. They're just often deeply flawed. Just like your flawed ass. I'm sorry, did I say that? Did I say that? Man, if we was in a building, everybody was together, I'd tell you to lean on your neighbor and say, he talking about you. He talking about you. He ain't talking about me. Okay, so they are deeply flawed. They are deeply hurt or self-centered individuals reacting to their own traumas and their insecurities. That's them. That's them. And you know how you know that's them? Because that's you. Anytime somebody hurts you, I dare you to stop and say, dang, when was the last time I hurt somebody? The big point here is that it seems that villains often emerge because we need them. Sometimes it's the things you get mad at that get you moving. It's often the things that break your heart that will lead you to break your habits and do something different. For some of you, if you've never got hurt, you would have never become so passionate about healing. And so listen, I know it hurt and I know the trauma of your past is there, but in some places, I just want to thank you for making it through. And I want to encourage you to take that pain, come on now, and turn it into purpose. If we do anything at Bridge City, we want to help people learn how to transform their wounds into wisdom. Yes, I done been through some stuff that hurt me. Yes, I done been through some stuff that felt like it was breaking me. But I tell you one thing, I kept learning. I kept learning. I kept growing. I kept transforming. I'm so grateful for anybody who went through trauma and came out on the other side trying to help somebody else. I didn't mean to preach, but I just feel like it today because it kind of feels good. And it's a little hot outside. So listen, for some of you, it is often what hurts and harms us that forms our moral identity by often forcing us to grow and evolve. I'd probably still be a Christian pastor if I didn't have to confront the harm that it was causing for many families. And as a person where like family is one of like the most important things in my life, and before you say anything about that, that's because I grew up as an orphan. So my family is like the most important thing in my life, my wife and my kids, because that's so important to me. Y'all, I hope y'all are. It speaks to my moral identity, and it forces me to grow and evolve. So listen, as uncomfortable as it may be, it seems at present moment that villains are a necessary component of how we do life. And so, chat, I have a question for you. I have a question for you. Okay, who was your favorite story villain, and why were they necessary for the story? And I want to explain to you why I'm asking the question that way. And I want you to answer in the chat. Now, don't you be out there fake breaking now. Don't be fake breaking. If you don't know what it means, look it up. There's an urban slang dictionary out there. Don't you be out there fake breaking. I want you to think about this question. Who was your favorite story villain? Movie, comic, film, television, whatever. And why were they necessary for the story? Bowser. That is hilarious. Oh my goodness. I love it. See, now I'm And the time started running out. Sorry, had to go there real quick. Who was your favorite story villain and why were they necessary for the story? Yes, Ultron. Man, and Dexter. Okay. The Penguin, because I love that he's with all my peeps. Oh my goodness. Listen, yeah. Now, Darante, why did you ask this story? Because we're talking about villains. All right. And I don't want the big bad wolf. Man, do y'all know in the 5th grade, I had to play a lawyer in the play. It was like an improvised play. I had to play a lawyer in the play about the big bad wolf versus the 3 little pigs. And I represented the big bad wolf and I got him off scot-free, 5th grade. Proud of myself. Probably should have took the bar. The reason I'm asking this question this way is to get you comfortable talking about villains before we get in your business. All right. So one of my favorite story villains of all time is Magneto of X-Men. He's one of my favorite villains. Oh my goodness. Like I grew up on X-Men. For the longest time, I thought Wolverine was X-Men. I thought it was like Wolverine was X-Men and the other people were just his homies that were hanging out and stuff, you know? But the more I'd watch the cartoon as a kid, I love the Joker. Yes. The more I'd watch the cartoon as a kid, I absolutely fell in love with Magneto. As hard as they wanted me to see that man as a villain, it was so hard. And I think he's a great case study for villainry, because his villainry, especially as his story begins to unfold and we get to learn more about him through the comics and the movies, is that his villainry evolves out of great pain. And that he doesn't exist just to be a thorn in anybody else's flesh. He exists in a story of his own. Ursula, come on now. He exists as a story as his own. Can you handle the fact that villains in your life exist in a story of their own? And I know, Mr. Hero, this might make you feel a little bad, but everything ain't about you. Okay, so watch this. Magneto isn't showing up to do what he does because he hates Charles. Everything ain't about you. Magneto isn't showing up doing what he does because he just hates humans. Listen, y'all, everything isn't about you. Magneto is showing up because his lived experience has given him great pain, and he's had to sit on the sidelines while nobody else did a damn thing about it. And maybe your world did not include the pain that his world did, but that's why you weren't shaped the way he was shaped. Who was your favorite story villain, and why were they necessary for the story? I feel like Magneto was necessary for the story to show us that there's always more than one point of view. There's always more than one way to look at the story. Now, this is urban legend, but many people characterized X-Men versus Magneto's crew, Charles Xavier versus Magneto, as Dr. King versus Malcolm X. And while, yes, it absolutely fits, the prototype is actually larger than that. The archetype is bigger than that. It fits for sure. It fits within the trope, but it expands beyond that. I see that because it matches my lived experience. And so for me, it reminds me that we can often become villains while we're often fighting for the same thing. Magneto was introduced as a supervillain. And that's typically where most people left him. But over time, he became more recognized as an anti-hero or an anti-villain, but still considered as a villain by nonetheless, which kind of leads me to my second chat question. And I hope y'all ready to talk to me. What villains are currently vital to who you are? And I want you to think, like, my villain was Magneto. And so I think about how Magneto was vital to Charles Xavier's development. Charles needed Magneto just as much as Magneto needed Charles, because they both showed each other the other extremes of their own view. What villains are currently vital to who you are? Okay. And to help us out, I'm about to zig when you thought I was gonna zag. So I hope you're ready for it. And to help us out, I want to remind everyone of an old quote. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. Just because villains may be necessary doesn't mean villains have to be people. What villains are currently vital to who you are? I'm going to say it one more time. Just because villains may be necessary doesn't mean villains have to be people. Why did you put Skeletor in the chat right while I'm reading the sentence? You made me laugh in the middle of the sentence. Skeletor. He's now running off, dropping some quip, and I'm stuck here laughing. Just because villains may be necessary doesn't mean villains have to be people. And because villainization often leads to dehumanization, it's probably good practice for ideas and not humans to be the focus of our investigation. So I ask this question again. What villains are currently vital to who you are? If you shifted your focus of villainy from a person in your life to an idea, to an ideology, to a value, what villains have become currently vital to who you are? Oh, I love y'all, man. I love y'all. Ooh. Yeah. I'm not going to look at that. I'm not looking at that. Look at the trees. I am not. What is my own villain? Oh, I love that. Trees. Then my mother-in-law. You know what? I'm going to use that one. My mother-in-law. Because mother-in-law works as an idea and a person. I think anybody that's out there that's married has had that. Oh, man. Yes, there are villains that are currently vital to who I am. Dehumanization is a villain that is vital to who I am. I hope y'all hear that, Bridge City builders, bridge builders, from the animation this morning. I think we need to add a villain called dehumanization. Dehumanization. That's the villain. Like, watch this. Okay, I'm gonna give you another one. An idea that I find villainous in my head. And in my head canon. Now, this is my head canon. It ain't got to be yours. Please remember, no matter what I share it with a lot of charisma because it's my life. My life doesn't have to be your life. I'm just hoping that my life gives you more permission to operate in your life. Don't be me, be you. Okay? But an idea that I find villainous in my head canon is superstition. Superstition is a villain that is currently vital to who I am. Yes, currently ways to dehumanize. Oh, that was a good one, Kyle. That was too good. Superstition was my former mentor. I was the young ward of superstition. I grew up attending to superstition. And the more that I got to know superstition, I began to see this villain that I was engaging, that I was following, that I was supporting was actually doing more harm than any good. So now my former mentor is now my nemesis. But that nemesis is very vital to who I am. And I am always on guard. Y'all don't want to talk to me today. I am always on guard, on lookout for that nemesis of superstition, so much so that when anybody says anything to me about anything, my first question is, how do you know? And it's not because I don't trust you, but it's because I know that sneaky, rascally, villainous superstition is always out to get somebody. I hope this is making sense out there. Subversion. I like that, Joshua. Thank you. Thank you. Subversion leads to betrayal, to manipulation. I try to stay away from anything that looks like dehumanization because that's a villain that's currently vital to who I am. But that leads me to our next stop on this weekend's conversation. It leads me to my next stop. Let me take my banner down so we can put this up. We've talked about the villains we need. Now let's talk about the villains we are. Oh, you ready for that? Are you ready for that? Can you talk about the villain that you are? One of my favorite shows growing up. I had a lot of shows. I was a latchkey kid. It comes with the territory. I was a latchkey kid, so I watched a lot of stuff growing up, and it stayed with me. And a show that I fell in love with right around high school, I think, right around high school, maybe shortly afterwards, was called Smallville. And Smallville, for those who don't know, it was the story of a young Superman, a young Clark Kent. Now, I will say that Smallville made me absolutely despise Clark Kent. I was like, bruh, this country bumpkin, he's so slow. The only thing he got going for him is superpowers. Okay. If he was a light, he'd be off. That's how I was looking at it. All right. So I watched Smallville. And oh man, Michael Rosenbaum's portrayal of Lex Luthor and their their portrayal of this dynamic between Lex's and Clark's relationship. And Lex, while sure he comes from a dad that is very questionable and is obviously very wicked in the beginning, it seems that Lex is trying to be a genuine friend. He trying to be somebody. He trying to help Clark. Clark saved his life one time, and it did not make sense how it happened. And Lex, just being the good critical thinker that he is trying to figure out how it happens. And Clark and everybody in Clark's life is just constantly gaslighting Lex. Now, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just making stuff up. No, that didn't really happen. No, what are you talking about? You crazy. No, just gaslighting the dude. And then finally he got sick of it. Clark's dad would talk so down to that dude. Michael Rosenbaum was the best Lex. Clark's dad, Pa Kent, would talk so down, and he was the dude from Dukes of Hazzard. He talked down to him, and for you people that watch the haves and have-nots, he was Jim Cryer. So he's talking down to him. He could never be trusted because of who his dad is. And finally, Lex delivered one of the most cold-blooded lines in the entire comic franchise. He looked directly at what is his name? At Jonathan and Martha Kent, looked them directly in their eyes and said, you know what? I am the villain of the story. Woo, man. Lex, bruh, you preaching to me. Sometimes, and I get it, Lex ain't supposed to be the good guy, but sometimes you just got to sit in the reality that, look, see it however you want to see it. I'm okay. I'm going to be the villain. It's all right. I'm the villain. I am the villain of the story. If that's how you see me, that's your story. I cannot rewrite your story. If that's how you see me, I guess that's who I am. So my question is, how often do you wrestle with the fact that showing up as you might make you the villain of someone else's story? See, you don't have to have a villain to be a villain. Have you ever noticed that? Like, you don't have to have a villain to be a villain. Like, I don't really have any villains. I have irrelevant people that say stuff, but I don't really have any villains. I don't like propping people up like that in my life as people. Like, I don't know anybody that important to be my villain. That's that. I guess that's that healthy narcissism that Darklight be talking about sometimes. You know what I'm saying? But I realize you don't have to be a villain. You don't have to have a villain to be a villain. But the moment you do have a villain, you likely have become a villain in someone else's story. Isn't that crazy how the moment you notice that somebody else is doing some foul shit, the moment you call it out, you the problem? I'm going to keep going. We become villains in other stories when we disrupt their comfort, set firm boundaries, or outgrow a dynamic that they rely on. Simply saying no prioritizes our own healing, or holding up a mirror to their behavior can cast us as the antagonist in their narrative. Because everyone is the hero of their own life. Everyone is the hero of their own life, and any action that threatens their worldview or interrupts their goals can be easily reframed as a malicious attack. We frequently step into this role through a few universal triggers, okay? Number one, setting boundaries will create a villain quicker than almost anything else in this world. Draw a line in the sand and see what happens. Draw a line, say no, and see what happens. Say the buck stops here and see what happens. Refusing to tolerate disrespect or demanding equal treatment is often perceived as cold or selfish by those who benefited from our compliance. I tell people all the time, listen here, your yeses should build you and your no's should shield you. All right. My no means I just put up a shield of defense. Ain't nothing you can do to get past that. That no, that means no. My yes only comes attached to things that are actually going to help build my life. But you will find out real quickly that no is a powerful word of revelation. The moment you say no, you start finding out who people are. Oh, you thought you was going to come in my life and run roughshod. You look it up, run roughshod, you know? No, you've been tricked, hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok. Who taught you had authority here? I'm sorry, I had to go there. The other one, not setting boundaries will do it. The setting boundaries will create villains and enemies and all types of things in your life because people don't like no. Just ask many of our women and our sisters out there who have to deal with life threats just by saying no. Okay, but then there's another one called prioritizing growth. Have you ever decided to kind of grow a little bit? And all of a sudden you start growing and people start getting mad at you because you're growing. You look, you didn't have to do anything wrong to anybody. It's just that you're growing. And all of a sudden, because you growing, it's like, who does he think he is? All of a sudden that you're growing, you're like, who does she think she are? She thinks she better than everybody else. Now, just because you're growing, setting boundaries and then saying, you know what, I think I'm growing past this often creates other people who say, well, why are you doing that? Why are you growing past us? Why you won't just stay here where we are? Moving on, making assertive life changes, or choosing your own peace can leave someone else feeling abandoned. I watched this in my own family as one of the women who helped raise me. She's my great aunt, but I called her Granny because she was the sister of my grandmother who was killed when my mother was 9 months old. And so she was one of the women that helped raise my mother. And then consequently, one of the women who helped raise me because my mother wasn't as active as she could have been or should have been, or however you want to see that. But one of my aunts, out of all of my granny's kids, decided that she wanted to go to college and just do a little bit better for herself. And as soon as she got the college degree, her mother, my granny, who I love my granny, who the hell she thinks she is? That don't make her better than nobody. So sometimes you ain't even got to do nothing wrong for somebody to be upset with you. And that goes back to that mirror, that shadow that we talked about earlier. Granny wasn't mad at her daughter. She was mad at herself, but did not have the emotional maturity to sit in it. Here's the third one: setting boundaries, prioritizing growth, differing perspectives. Okay. A decision made out of necessity or survival can be twisted into an act of cruelty when viewed through the lens of another person's bias. And then here's the one that I think is going to hit a lot of people. This is one that has definitely hit my life. I've made a lot of villains in my life. In ninth grade, There was a riot at my school. There was one school that came over. It was a pep rally day. And I don't know what happened. A fight broke out and the police showed up, and the police are, just throwing people down. And of course, you can imagine that in a city like Dothan, Alabama, where the majority of the population is white, in the school that we were going to where the majority of the population was white, the only kids that were getting thrown against the pavement happened to look like me. And so I stepped in and I spoke up, and I didn't even speak out disrespectfully. I spoke up to the kids. I asked them, hey, if you give me your parents' names and numbers, I will call them and let them know what happened today. And I ended up getting slammed. I had like 5 police officers, 9th grade, this is me, 5 police officers grab me, throw me on the ground, twist my wrist, broke my glasses, been there, made villains just by speaking out. Have you ever did something and the only thing you did was just speak up, and all of a sudden you a problem? It don't even got to be speaking up about something that happened to you. You just spoke out against something that happened to somebody else, and now you're the problem. Confronting an injustice or simply refusing to participate in a toxic dynamic. And I want to show you that whether you're the person speaking out or the person refusing to participate in the toxicity, you make the same villain. The same villain, because it makes you an obstacle to the other person's narrative. I can no longer sit in the comfort of the story that I tell myself because you keep calling it out. It's like when people used to say, America, we're number one. We're number one. We're the best country in the world. And then you say, at what? Imprisoning the largest percentage of your population? And then all of a sudden you're a villain. For whether you're calling it out or whether you're refusing to participate in the toxicity, whether you're the person who says, hey, this country is doing some fucked up shit, or you're the person who says, I'm going to kneel and not participate in the Pledge of Allegiance, you're going to get attacked by the same villain. Because it's not the villain, it's the narrative. Ultimately, being the villain in someone else's story is an inevitable part of living authentically. If you're going to live authentically, you're going to piss some people off. If you're going to live authentically, immature people are not going to be able to handle you. If you're going to live authentically, there are going to be people who are always trying to fit you in the box that makes their narrative makes more sense to them because they believe everybody's story has to match your story. But you're not born to be universally liked. I hate to use this example because it's not a popular person, but I don't care. It's a valid example. Oprah Winfrey. Write me a letter. What can I say? The story has a valid point. Oprah Winfrey was telling this story about people when she got rich, stuff, asking her for money, asking her to invest in her businesses, asking her to put her on her shows, asking her to do all these things. And she said, I'm going to do it. And at first, she's trying to do all of these things. And then her therapist asked her, why? Why are you doing that? Well, why? And she says, because I don't want them to not like me. No, you sit in that. Why are you bending over backwards, doing things you cannot afford to do, doing things you don't have the time to do, doing things you don't have the capacity to do? Why? I'm not saying don't do it. I'm asking why. What's the purpose? What's the point? What's the pull? What's the push? Why are you doing it? And she said, I don't want them not to like me. I don't want them to think that I'm not nice. I don't want them to think that I don't like them. And then she had to realize, like, whoa. The therapist asked, let me ask you this. Are you doing this to be liked? You are not born to be universally liked. And sometimes the bad guy role is just a byproduct of protecting your well-being. All right, so now this is going to lead me to a poll question because y'all asked for the polls to be back. And eventually we're going to build out our team. So we got polls every weekend because you got to sit and think about these questions, y'all. They don't just come out of nowhere. I'm good, but I'm not that good. I'm intelligent. I'm not omniscient, but I did think this one was a good one. So I'm going to throw this poll up here. Oh, that's a great place for it to be. I have this poll up. How do you feel knowing that your boundaries or your growth may make you the villain in someone else's story? Now, if this is your first time doing polls with us, the way you answer is simply by putting in the number that corresponds with your answer. So if you're like, no, I'm at peace with it, bro, then you're going to put a 1 in the chat. You're going to put a 1 in the chat. If you're like, no, it's still uncomfortable for me, then you're going to drop a 2 in the chat. If you're like, I struggle with guilt about it, then you're going to drop a 3 in the chat. And if you like, hey, it just depends on how the wind flowing that day, how other people feeling, then you're going to drop a 4 in the chat. Damn, we either have, okay, now we're getting some mix up in here. We either have some people in here with some strong sense of self or some strong I don't give a damn energy. Either way, I am here for all of it. I love it. I noticed nobody put, okay, there we go. We got 1. I was about to say, I noticed nobody put it's uncomfortable, but we got 1. So I like the way this is splitting down. The majority by far and large right now, 64%, and it's going back and forth. It's oscillating like a fan right now. That need to be a rap lyric. Oscillating like a fan. That's a metaphor in there. Okay, I'm back. Neuro spicy moment. You feel me? 56%. I'm at peace with it. 56%. I'm at peace with it. I'm at peace. And you know what? I want to thank you for those 56% for being honest, for being open, and for sharing your peace with those who are still struggling with it. Okay? Because you know what my answer is, right? Anybody know what my answer is? Listen, number one, as a black man in America who is a former black nationalist, guess what? I'm at peace with it. No. I am okay knowing that my boundaries or growth make me the villain and someone else's story. And let me tell you why I'm at peace with it. Because that's their story, not mine. For the people who responded, it's uncomfortable. I feel you. Because I've sat in that discomfort. It's like, wow, look at the tree, 0. I love it. It's like, why? For the people struggling with guilt, listen to me very closely. For the people struggling with guilt, if you're struggling with guilt because you know that your boundaries or your growth may make you the villain in someone else's story, I want to encourage you and I want to remind you that they had the choice in how they wrote that narrative. That's not your weight. That's not your weight. No. That's their weight. It's their narrative. It's their weight. You can't afford to take on any guilt that you didn't produce through your actions or through your behavior. There's a fine line between understanding and being scapegoated. And so please, my friends, don't let nobody scapegoat you into guilt. Man. And then lastly, it depends. And I think that's probably one of the greatest answers because, man, maybe if it's some stranger on the internet, you righteously don't give a damn. But if it's somebody you love, like my aunt and a granny, no, it's going to depend for her. And it might create some guilt for her, which is why I tell her, baby, that's granny's narrative, not your narrative. Okay? Let them stay with their beliefs. There you go. All right. So this brings us to our third stopping point of this weekend, y'all. We've talked about the villains we need. Let me take my poll down. We've talked about the villains we need. We've talked about the villains we are. But I'd be remiss if we didn't land this plane on the villains we create. And this is a bigger subject. And so I am a poet. I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty good at it. One of my favorite poems that I wrote is called Fuck It, I'll Do It Myself. Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. But there's an older poet, elder statesman in it, if you will, in the rhetoric of things, by the name of Khalil Gibran. Now, I don't know if it's Gibran or Gibran. I ain't never met him, so he ain't gonna be mad. He gone by now. He good. He good. He can't hear me. But in Khalil Gibran's work, villainy is not treated as one-dimensional, but rather as a reflection of societal neglect. Now, this is one of the reasons why I do try to operate in a little more nuance than people are often comfortable with. Because me looking at things from a societal perspective, I recognize that nobody gets here in a vacuum. Yeah. And there are some people that I know that hold some really wild, damaging, harmful perspectives. But I know those perspectives did not develop in a vacuum. Sometimes we like to just look at the world as somebody was sitting down one day and said, you know what? At 13 years old, I'm deciding I'm going to be a jackass for the rest of my life. Now, that may happen with some. That may happen with some. But in most cases, villainy is not a one-dimensional paradigm. It's a reflection of societal neglect. This is how Khalil looked at it. He explores the roots of wrongdoing, most notably in his prose poem on crime and punishment and his short story, The Criminal. In his collection, A Tear and a Smile, the story of the criminal tells of a starving young man who begged for bread but was repeatedly refused by humanity. Driven to desperation, he becomes a powerful robber and killer. Eventually, he amasses wealth, bribes those in power, and is celebrated by society, exposing how initial greed and indifference transforms humble sons of peace into criminals. All right? In his masterpiece on crime and punishment, Gibran argues that no individual commits a crime in total isolation. Sit with that. This is his argument. I'm not saying it's my argument. I'm not saying it's a belief. I'm not saying you need to hold on to it. I'm saying this is something that another human being has subjected in the marketplaces of ideas, and maybe we should interrogate it, sit with the discomfort of the nuance of it, and ask ourselves, how does this really feel? He asserts that that no individual commits a crime in total isolation. He asserts that the wrong party is often partly accountable, as society's own failures and blind spots nurture the environment where the crime occurs. That's the hard question of asking, how did we get here? He famously suggests that the righteous and the villain are merely the same person standing in twilight, and a community's highest structure is only as strong as its lowest foundation. So I actually want to read this to you. I'm going to read the whole short story. It's a short story, so don't be mad at me. It's a short story, but I'm going to read this to you. This is called The Criminal. I don't know if it's The Criminal 5. I don't know if it's The Criminal the 5th. I don't know if it's The Criminal V. It's The Criminal V is for Vendetta, as far as I'm concerned. So a young man of strong body, weakened by hunger, sat on the walker's portion of the street, stretching his hand toward all who passed, begging and repeating his hand toward all who passed, begging and repeating the sad song of his defeat in life while suffering from hunger and from humiliation. When night came, his lips and tongues were parched, while his hand was still as empty as his stomach. He gathered himself and went out from the city, where he sat under a tree and wept bitterly. Then he lifted his puzzled eyes to heaven while hunger was eating his inside. And he said, "Oh Lord, I went to the rich man and asked for employment, but he turned me away because of my shabbiness. I knocked at the school door, but was forbidden solace because I was empty-handed. I sought any occupation that would give me bread, but all to no avail. In desperation, I asked alms, but they worshipers saw me and said, 'He is strong and lazy, and he should not beg.' Oh Lord, it is thy will that my mother gave birth unto me, and now the earth offers me back to you before the ending." His expression then changed. He arose, and his eyes now glittered in the determination. He fashioned a thick and heavy stick from the branch of the tree and pointed it toward the city, shouting, "I asked for bread with all the strength of my voice and was refused. Now I shall obtain it by the strength of my muscles. I asked for bread in the name of mercy and love, but humanity did not heed. I shall take it now in the name of evil." The passing years rendered the youth a robber, killer, and destroyer of souls. He crushed all who opposed him. He amassed fabulous wealth with which he won himself over to those in power. He was admired by colleagues, envied by other thieves, and feared by the multitudes. His riches and false position prevailed upon the emir to appoint him deputy in that city. The sad process pursued by unwise governors. Thefts were then legalized. Oppression was supported by authority. Crushing of the weak became commonplace. The throngs curried and praised. Thus does the first touch of humanity's selfishness make criminals of the humble and make killers of the sons of peace. Thus does the early greed of humanity grow and strike back at humanity 1,000-fold. Oh, is that not heavy or what? Now, I'd love to say I was introduced to this poem as a child. I was not. I did not know who Khalil Gibran was. I probably came across some of his works in a few textbooks, but I was actually introduced to this poem through a character by the name of Lucius Lyon. Lucius Lyon is the quintessential character in the show Empire, and he quotes a line from this poem while doing story time with one of the kids, giving them insight into who he has become. But I love this poem so much because last week we talked about the 4th of July and headcanon, and even in that 4th of July, from the U.S. narrative, it was the greed of the crown that led to the liberation. But then that same greed gets into the liberation, and they use it against other folk. I love that last line. Thus does the first touch of humanity's selfishness make criminals of the humble. Everybody didn't start off this way. See, this is the thing, like we're in this yin and yang, if you will. The poem traces how systemic neglect and social hypocrisy transform a desperate beggar into a violent criminal, framing societal structures as complicit in moral corruption. If we're not willing to deal with the whole system, then we're actually scapegoating the people. It challenges the moral binaries of good and evil by showing criminality as a consequence of social abandonment. While many works from the era emphasize redemption through suffering, this poem instead indicts collective inaction and class-based gatekeeping. I want you to think about that phrasing. This poem indicts collective inaction. Why is Bridge City doing what we do? Because we're working to build the engine for collective action. Collective inaction, oh, damn it. Collective inaction is not just a choice, it's a consequence. Y'all ain't ready. Collective inaction is not just a choice, it's a consequence. Darante, what you talking about? What you talking about? What you mean collective inaction is a consequence? Collective inaction is a consequence of being disconnected. I was going to do a video last Wednesday. I may do it next Wednesday on the difference between activism and advocacy. Advocacy is speaking out. Activism is building systems. Collective inaction. See, there are people who are not active. It's not always a choice. It's the consequence of not having a connected network to actually be able to do something about it. All right, so let's get into this. This is my last chat question for today. It's my last chat question for today. And this one is going to be a little sober. What villains are we currently creating? And I want you to think about that. What villains are we currently creating? Number one, as a global society, what villains are we currently creating? Number two, yeah, many hands make light work. Yes. Number two, what villains are we currently creating as individuals? Where am I stretching my narrative where my perspective doesn't have insight? Modern society creates villains by pushing people into isolation, economic desperation, and echo chambers where tribalism thrives over empathy. Now, any of you that have worked with me for any number of time, you will know that I detest tribalism in any form, shape, form, or fashion that it comes in. I detest it. I detest it. Because to me, it's that same form of superstition. When tribalism thrives over empathy, we have a problem. This is why one of our values here is people-centric. Can you handle that? We are not a belief-centric community. We're not even a values-centric community. We love our values. We stand to our values. But the thing that we love, appreciate, honor, protect, and respect more than anything else, watch this, is people. It's people. Villains are created when people get pushed into isolation. I am the villain of the story. I got no choice, Lex says. Lex says, you're never going to see me as someone who's just being honest. I have a right to be interested in how your superhero son has interfered with my life. I have a right to figure out the mysteries that are now intertwined with who I am, where I am, and why I am. But if you're so hell-bent on keeping me on the outside, I am the villain of the story. Modern society creates villains by pushing people into isolation, economic desperation. This is why in most cases I'm not interested in most causes that are not connected to the idea of economic solidarity and economic sustainability. Because once I see that, I just realize, oh, there's just another people who want to be loud but don't really want to do shit. There are people who are in isolation. There are people who are in economic desperation. And there are people who are in echo chambers who right now are taking their villain arc. This is why community is important. Ecosystems. I wish I had the shirt on right now. I almost unbuttoned my shirt like Superman to show it to you, but all you're going to see is my man boob. So I decided not to. Ecosystems are greater than echo chambers. That's why we do community, because we need a place. They're already, y'all listen, how many places out there are creating new villains? We need spaces that are not focused on staying locked into this hero-villain paradigm, but we need spaces that are locked into the partnership paradigm, where we're in this together. Instead of comic book masterminds, our real-world villains are often the systemic failures we ignore. Unregulated algorithms that radicalize users, and a hyper-polarized culture that turns human beings into caricatures. When society systematically locks people out of the job market due to prior convictions or mental health struggles, it leaves them with fewer legal options, effectively manufacturing the very criminals society condemns. Tech monopolies and algorithmic echo chambers are often designed to exploit outrage, turning everyday people into radicalized individuals who act out in hate or hostility. Pay attention to what someone is exploiting your outrage. And then thanks to things like cancel culture and intense political polarization, anyone who holds a different worldview is quickly cast as a malicious adversary rather than a neighbor with a different perspective. Rather than another human being who has a different lived experience. But we cannot count out the overworked and the apathetic. In our pursuit of success and productivity, we often act as our own worst enemies, leading to burnout, broken relationships, and the neglect of our own communities. Some people ain't helping because they tired, y'all. Some people aren't joining the fray. Some people aren't getting into the fight. Is because they are overworked. They are overburdened. They are tired. As a Black nationalist, I constantly thought about this. And I'd often, talk about this. You want people to be able to stand up and participate in the things that you're doing. You want people to be able to get involved, but bro, they got to go to work. They got to survive. They're still in the belly of the beast. They're still trying to make ends meet. They got kids. They got things that they want to do, and they don't want to be left out because their kid can't play basketball or whatever else. People have a real life going on. Real life going on. So sometimes when people ain't tapping in, it's not always because they don't care. It's because they don't have the strength to. They don't have the freedom to. They don't have the freedom to. They don't have the permission to. And so many times we try to put purpose on people before we give them permission to find themselves. What villains are we currently creating? What villains? The bulk of this series is about narrative awareness and finding how to live in the stories that are as accurate as possible, while realizing that none of us actually live in the official story. All of us live in headcanon. That's your headcanon. As intelligent as you are, you're intelligent. You're not omniscient. So at this moment, as far as I'm concerned, you don't even have the capacity to have the official story. It'd be like looking at the Ark of the Covenant in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's going to be face melting. We have to learn how to cultivate healthier narratives. Rewriting a healthier narrative involves shifting from reactive villain into an empowered survivor and helping other people do the same. By actively reframing past events, you reclaim agency, process complex emotions, and focus on future growth rather than solely on the pain of the past. The pain of the past is real. It's there. It's data. It's information, but you can't change it for you. You can use that pain of the past to create different outcomes for others, but it is there now. And so you can learn from there. But it probably would not be in your best interest to dwell there. That is the difference between bitterness and betterness. One of my problems, and I've not shied away from calling this out, is that I feel like many times in our anger in what religion has done, which I want to be very honest with you. Anybody who's really angry at religion, you should be angry at yourself. That's responsibility. Religion is the tool. We are the users. We did it. We like to have labels and categories that we can use that absolve ourselves of the crimes that we've committed. We did it. We've done it. Whether you're religious or non-religious, we're participating in it. Can't stay there. But many times in secular communities, we keep people trapped in their wounds. We keep people trapped in their pain. We keep people trapped in what they're mad at because that'll keep them coming back. And so at the height of my channel's growth, I said, not here. People start asking me, how can I use this to dunk on Christians? How can I use this to win against the Christians that I love? How can I use this to beat down other people? You go somewhere else for that brain rot. You go somewhere else for hate content. If you're coming here, you're not coming here to dunk on people. You're coming here to help people. The goal is not to be a part of the problem. The goal is to become the solution that has been much needed. Not to take a position on the other opposite end of the extreme. Not to become just as evangelical as those, not to become just as purity, as gatekeeping and purity culture as those. No. Don't come to me asking me advice of how to make somebody feel bad. Ain't nobody got time for that. No. I don't want anybody trapped in their pain just because it makes me popular. That doesn't help our world progress. That doesn't help my children inherit a better and safe space. And I told y'all, I'm in this for 100% selfish reasons. My baby's got to live in this world. And then their baby's got to live in this world. So I'm not interested in holding up anybody's point as superior above anybody else's. I'm interested in creating a collaborative global movement where maybe we can finally learn how to coexist and do life together while being committed to decreasing harm and increasing well-being. And I think the place that we start that at, come here, Bridge City Mission, is helping people learn how to connect better so that they can build better and build better so that they can live better. So to everybody who's in today's stream, I want to encourage you to maybe shift from victim and villain and consider embracing survivor. Because the truth of the matter is, I don't think there's anybody here that's never been a victim. And I know you all high, holy, pure, virgin, all that good stuff. I don't think there's anybody here that's never been a villain. And we can pick sides all day long. But the one thing that we all are, if you're here, if you're breathing, if you're alive, if you're walking, if you're talking, we're all survivors. That's the reality. Write your life story from the perspective of a third person or an empowered future self. Now, this is something I do with my writings a lot. And again, this is narrative therapy. I encourage you to, there's that country thing again. I'm starting to sound like Cleveland. There's this narrative therapy, Family Guy reference, narrative therapy techniques. But write your life story from the perspective of a third person observer or an empowered future self. This helps you objectively evaluate the past, identify your core strengths, and detach from limiting labels. Practice radical responsibility. Own your present choices and emotional responses without minimizing the hardships you faced. Taking that proactive type of stance helps to foster hope and resilience. And then start working on reframing your narrative arc. Rather than omitting contradictory evidence or assigning moral blame, which is easy, reinterpret challenges. Shift the perspective from this ruined my life to this taught me empathy and built my resilience. Church took a lot from me. Christianity took a lot from me. I could say it ruined my life. I could. But the truth of the matter is I made a lot of bad decisions based off of it. And even in a greater truth, even beyond that, I learned so much, especially from coming out of it. Oh man, my bucket of empathy is overflowing because I haven't wrestled with coming out of that. And then here's a big one, and I'm not going to spend too much time here because this one is worthy of a whole series of its own. But work on fostering post-traumatic growth. Can you grow beyond the trauma? This is what I love about trees. My neighborhood, our neighborhood is backed up against a nature reserve. Nature reserve, so it's all bunches of old trees behind us that nobody can mess with, and it's just beautiful watching the way trees grow through trauma. Like plants, plants can grow beyond trauma like nobody's business. Like trees will wrap themselves around the trauma and keep on growing. They'll twist if they need to, bend in another way, and keep on growing. That's what I want to encourage us all to do, is to foster that post-traumatic growth. Intentionally focus on finding new opportunities, recognizing strengths, and building a sense of purpose to facilitate a positive, forward-looking mindset. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it's going to create less enemies for you. It will just matter less to you. One of the things I do really quickly in my life is I move on quickly. I do. Woo, Bobby, moving on so quickly. I can be sitting in a room for 3 weeks and I'll be like, all right, y'all, I'm done. I'm not gonna go on with this. Because I got to keep growing. One of the things I've adopted in my life is that nobody has to be the villain in order for me to be the hero of my own story. So here's where I want to land. And every story requires conflict. It's the nature of stories. But not every conflict requires a villain. Somebody may tell the story of your boundary as betrayal. They may interpret your growth as abandonment, your honesty as cruelty, or your refusal to remain who they needed you to be as selfishness. They're allowed to have their own version of your story, of their story, but their version does not have to become your identity. Narrative awareness also requires us to turn the question around, not only who has made me the villain, but who have I needed to make the villain? Who have I reduced to their worst decision? Who have I turned into a one-dimensional character so that my own choices would remain unquestioned? What person have I needed to remain evil so that I can continue seeing myself as completely innocent? That doesn't mean the harm was imaginary. Some people have genuinely hurt us. Some systems exploit and abandon people. Some ideas deserve to absolutely be confronted, resisted, and dismantled. But we can oppose harmful ideas without dehumanizing human beings. We can protect ourselves without rewriting everyone who disappointed us as a monster. We can leave a painful chapter without requiring somebody else to remain trapped inside it forever. Because people are more than the roles they played in our pain, and we are more than the roles we have played in theirs. Until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. But when the lion finally picks up the pen, the challenge is not merely to reverse the characters and become the hunter in the next version. When the lion picks up the pen, listen to me, you lion who's been written out of everybody else's story. When you finally pick up the pen, the challenge is not merely to reverse the characters and to become the hunter in the next version. Thus, we repeat the cycle over and over and over again. The challenge is to write a different kind of story altogether. A story where surviving harm does not require reproducing it. A story where protecting yourself does not require losing your humanity. A story where nobody has to be the villain in order for you to become the hero. You made it through what happened to you. Now you get to decide what happens through you. This is your story. This is your story. It is up to you. It is up to you to live it. It is up to you to write it. And I hope you know you have the freedom not to let it get trapped in anybody else's narrative of who you are, of where you've been, of how you've gotten this far. It's time for you to pick up the pen. That is going to be the running through line throughout this entire series. Throughout this entire series, if you are here, you are absolutely a part of the collective writing room. And listen, if you don't know where to get started at, I'm inviting you to join our community. No pressure, no dues. We'll welcome you into a chat room. I'll be in there. We'll help you get onboarded. We'll help you get started. But if you're looking for a community where you can write your story without having to conform to somebody else's story, where you can be yourself and unpack yourself and interrogate your ideas without someone gatekeeping you and where you land, without someone holding you to cultures, holding you to purity culture or standards that they've defined without even knowing you, then I'd love to extend this invitation for you to join Bridge City today. Our mission, you've heard me say it several times, is to help people connect better, build better, and live better. And if you'd like a preview of what that looks like, I'd encourage you to join us on the global campus after today's stream, where we're all going to be in a group chat together, talking about today's conversation and talking about ways you can get involved with Bridge City. Thank you for your time today. And if you want to connect, the link was on the screen. Thank you, Sonia. The link is on the screen. And now we're bringing up our crew to go ahead and get you closed out with some style, with some grace, and with some excellence. Until next time, y'all, be the bridge and keep rising.
All right, make sure I'm actually off of mute this time. Hi, everyone. What a great Sunday session. Today, joining me is Mark again. You saw him in the intro, but he's taking Jude's place today because Jude has a performance. Good luck, Jude. But Mark, what about today's conversation? This was good.
Yeah, this was good. Actually, one of the things that it reminded me of too is, how the Disney villains have changed, and we now have all these backstories of the Disney villains, and
they're all complicated now.
And they're all complicated. They have, and a lot of them became these villains through being harmed in some way. That they have trauma. This story of trauma that brought them. And so one of the things that came to mind out of this was that, we have lots of different ways that we can direct that harm, that trauma, and we have to decide how we're going to do that. And you can go lots of different ways. You can make it more negative or more positive.
Yeah.
But it really just it reminded me of the whole Disney villain thing.
No, and I actually really want to kind of highlight that, because it was really, I think the undercurrent of today's session was agency, right? What choices are you making in this? And I think the Disney villains, their evolution is such a great call out. Love that. And then I was also thinking too, I have a personal mantra of boundaries and balance. And a lot of this felt like that was really honing in on that boundaries, discussion, where are your boundaries? So if last week we were talking about what is your story? What is your headcanon? Where did it come from? And how are you writing it now? This week, it was, focusing on how stories can create binary forces in our lives, how we separate people into buckets of good and bad. And I feel like, again, to circle back on what you were saying, Mark, we see that as a species, our storytelling is getting more complex, where now it's not just good and bad, but how does that affect your headcanon, right? As our narratives change and shift and evolve, how does that affect them?
This is going to date me, but one of the other things, I was listening to, watching another influencer, I don't know, earlier this week, but he was sharing some stories that just kind of reminded me of fractured fairy tales. I don't know if you've ever heard
I'm not familiar with that, but I like the idea of it. I'm like, give me some fairy tales. Let's go.
But it's like a lot of time it was just like taking a more snarky or modern take on the old, taking the old fairy tales and just kind of like recasting them. And so the thing is that you look at the fairy tales and they were not, they're not really complex stories, you just mentioned that we have created a more complex narrative. And it's partially just to reflect that that's what life is. We constantly, Rocky and Bullwinkle. Okay. That's it.
And there's Daniel. He knows what's up. I'm just like, what is it? So I definitely want to look into these. But what I love about these complex narratives that we're forming, we see the deconstruction. It sounds like a fairy tales of the superhero genre, which we're in right now. And I'm sorry for those who are wondering. This series just lends itself to dressing up. So, I'm going to be coming on here and stream with a little something extra each week kind of thing. But with these stories, they can bond us. They can create platforms in our life that are major milestones, but they can also rewrite people into villains, right? And then all of a sudden now those complex stories, those narratives that we are slowly as a species adopting kind of can turn into ways that we cast people in negative light. as Darante had said, just to move ourselves forward. So there was just so many good things. And of course, we're going to have to talk more about this in the coffee hour. I realized I was just like,
so
you guys, are we going to coffee hour right now? Let's make this happen.
Get this to the coffee hour. So
yeah,
so I'd like to invite everybody else, to join us in that conversation, to come to the Commons and check that out. And think about your own light bulb moments from today and something that really hit you from today's conversation.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, if you guys, if you've been thinking about maybe joining Bridge City and you're like, oh, where do I start? I'd welcome everyone to join us. You've already seen that we're doing coffee hours. We have our Sunday sessions. We have movie nights coming up. Our clubs are always doing something amazing. So Bridge City isn't a gatekeeping community. As you can see, we're trying to explore the gatekeeping norms that we already build up in our society. We're trying to question them. We're trying to push back on them. We have a lot of great people having great conversations and just really trying to not just deconstruct like a post-religion lifestyle, but all these different narratives that fill our life, that fill our headcanon. So if you belong here, if any of this language has helped you, if again you're looking for a post-religious society, post-religious community, not society just yet, not just yet. And if you want to think honestly about these topics and engage with them genuinely, if you're looking for a place to connect and build and live better, I welcome all of you to check out Bridge City now. I'm so sorry, Zerna. Can I get that link on the screen one more time? BridgeCity.app. Hello. Again, just in case you guys haven't got a chance and you've been thinking about it, come right here. Oh, I don't know this guy. It's big, Zerna. I hate it. Take it down. I'm sorry.
Looks like I'm saying it. What was that? Just like,
I know. I loved it. It does. That's great. Okay. It was half on purpose, if you guys can believe that.
That is hilarious. I cannot.
Darante's sitting backstage just like, no, we got it here. We got it here. So again, connecting with the community helps support the bigger vision.
Yes. And once you get into the Global Campus site, just go tap in. That takes you through a little introductory course. And also introduce yourself in the new member introductions.
Please introduce yourself. So the way we get to know you. And you get to know
us.
And
then I mean, if you want to explore further, look to the lobby, go to the Welcome Center. The lobby,
the Teams page for sure.
And there's all these other things. The new member area, the Teams pages, Commons. It's just lots of things to explore. So just tap in and check things out.
And I know joining a new community can be daunting, and there is a lot here at Bridge City. We're building more every single day. But when you come, however you want to engage, that's you. Show up as you are. It's not about guilting you into, I believe Party Wolf said this in the chat, it's not about guilting you into doing something specific. If you want to come in and lurk for a couple months, get your feel around, do it. Make it happen. This isn't about manipulation. There's no supernatural promise here. This is just honest people getting together to support a mission that matters. So show up, support where you can, and check out Bridge City campus if you haven't yet. And then, of course, with today's stream, share the replay.
Yes, exactly. So how are we closing out now? Ashley?
Not just yet. So I want people to share this live. And then I want them to comment on it. I want it to, if you can, draw a thumbs up. I don't know how hype works, but I'm gonna keep saying it every week until someone corrects me. Hype the video, if that is still an option. But really, for anyone who is, again, look, I just love the word post-religious community because it really isn't about, oh, you have to be an atheist to be here. We have people at all stages of their belief system joining, talking, and having great conversations. So if you want to try to kind of break into those or just even watch them from afar, get on the campus, share this replay with someone that maybe has been questioning these things.
Maybe meet with maybe watch it together with somebody as well. Even if it's not a live, you could do a live watch party. It doesn't have to be live. You could always watch
true.
Watch it anytime.
I always think when we get together every Sunday, it feels more and more like we are having a watch party. I know we're spread out. We can't be high-fiving and sharing popcorn in the morning, but legit, I get on. I see Monica there. I see Erica. I see Darklight. I see Party Wolf. We get people coming in regularly all the time. Alan was there. I think I even saw Captain out there in the chat. So like, truly, like, you guys' support and coming into this, it really means the world to us. And it's the way we grow. It's the way we spread the message and just try to help more people find the bridge. So moving to closing now. Again, everyone, thank you so much for joining. And I like I said last week, and I'll probably say this every series, so take it with a grain of salt, but I love Head Canon. You get costumes, you get to question your narratives, we get deep discussion. What was the narrative identity that Darante was talking about? We definitely got to talk about that in the coffee hour, because I have questions.
Definitely.
I have questions I want to talk about.
I have questions too. So yeah, absolutely. But yeah, if there's something that spoke to you, of course, bring that forward. Create other conversations out, just within your entire, just in your entire circle, not just in the community, but go to the community.
That's true.
But bring that up elsewhere, because once you create those conversations, maybe they will want to learn more too, and find out more about where they're getting that from.
Sunday sessions are about starting a conversation, about questioning pre-established beliefs. They're almost akin to a very in-depth trigger warning with just Darante on screen. But like, really, it's really a place to invite conversation that doesn't necessarily have to be done just in the campus.
And I hope it creates some ideas of like how you can start those conversations without like feeling like you're attacking somebody or something like that.
Someone has to be challenged. No, I agree. Right, and I think that's really the best thing about Sunday sessions. We do dig into hard topics. We do question the status quo, let's say, but it's all from a place of curiosity, of trying to understand. It's not trying to challenge people or attack them. But what you will see is that when you do challenge someone's identity, it can feel a lot like an attack. It can.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
So, to our visitors out there, our guests, if this is your first time here, thank you so much for joining the live stream. As we stated before, we will be having a coffee hour after this, immediately after the stream ends. So be sure to meet us over on the campus for that. But thank you for being here. Thank you for being present. And we hope you enjoyed the stream.
Yeah, and also to the members, look forward to seeing you in the coffee hour or anywhere on campus. Don't let the conversation end here. Keep it going.
Yes.
Keep it going in the campus. Keep it going with your friends, family, whoever you want to invite in to that. And also keep an eye on the resource board.
Yes, the resource board, please. You guys check it out. We got a charity spotlight on there. You can put up, if you're offering services, you would like to make your services available to the community. You have a connections hub, lots of different ways to engage the community from both professional and personal ways. So check out that resource board. Sorry, I just love the resource board so much.
Lots of teams to help out with everything from just tons of things, production work to music to could imagine theater at some point in time, maybe.
I got plans. Daniel got plans. Darnea got plans. We got plans. There's plans happening. So literally, you guys, come on into the campus. Come check out what we're doing. Lurk if you need to. Peruse around. Join a couple of events. See how it feels. And again, always remember, Bridge City's values are at the forefront of everything we do. Being forward thinking, making sure that we are, of course, people centric, that we care about people and the things we're doing, and life affirming. None of us know exactly how to move through this life. We're just trying to figure this out. It starts with conversations. It starts with connection. It starts with friendships. And I find that here at Bridge City.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to get to talk more about this coming up. Can't
wait for the coffee hour. So, I hope someone else be a villain with me. Come on, come get with some black, some black stuff. But I think we're good. I think we're good. Yeah. Anything else crazy coming? No. And one last thing I will say as we close out here. This week coming up is Giving Tuesday. Oh, you got something, Mark. Yes. Giving Tuesday this week. I'll be getting a video on the campus so we talk about our goals, our fundraising, the desires. Just talking to me, Mark. Like yell it at my face, please. So if you can, again, supporting the community helps us support the mission, moving it forward and expanding it. So am I forgetting anything else here, Mark?
I was going to mention, I think you were having a trigger warning thing coming up.
My God. Yeah, you guys, trigger warning next Saturday at noon Pacific Standard Time. It'll be for conflict and community. And we're going to kind of go over, we're talking a lot about what our personal headcanon is right now in this series. What happens when that personal headcanon meets the connection of community. So that's really where I want that trigger warning to go. I hope we'll see a lot of you guys there. We do once a month, trigger warning roundtable global discussion. Can't wait. So excited. Thank you. Good
Beautiful.
call out,
Well,
Mark. I appreciate it.
I guess until next time.
Yeah. Meet us at the coffee hour, but keep rising and be the bridge.
Be the bridge.
Have a great Sunday, y'all.
In a world full of irrational thinking and echo chambers, only the bridge builders can save the day, bringing us back to a shared reality based on truth and connection. Meet Fast Forward, bringing the future now. Meet Whimsy, fluttering to make new connections. And meet a Firmaman. Wait, is this really this guy's name? Really? Well, all right. Meet a Firmaman, doing whatever it is a Firmaman does. Together, they are the Bridge Builders.
Building shared reality is better than a fantasy. So you and you and you and me can rise above the phony and be free. When you lose your story,